Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into something we all face: chaos. We are going to break down the actual psychological tools and practical strategies you need to navigate today's wildly unpredictable business landscape. We're looking at some truly fascinating insights from top business schools, academic journals, and leading CEOs to understand what it actually takes to thrive when literally everything around you is changing. So, I want to start with this. Is intelligence a ceiling or a springboard? It's a fundamental question. Think about it for a second. If you believe your intelligence and your capabilities are just a fixed ceiling, you're going to lead with a very defensive, static mindset. And let me tell you, in a chaotic, fast-paced world, that is incredibly dangerous. But if you see it as a springboard, well, then you are ready for disruption.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll cover leading in an unpredictable world, fixed versus growth mindsets, the psychologically resilient leader, and finally, we'll wrap up with a practical playbook for change.
Starting with Section 1, leading in an unpredictable world and navigating constant disruption. You know, the capacity to learn from failure, to adapt on the fly, and invite various perspectives, it's no longer optional. It is an absolute necessity. We used to think of career trajectories as predictable, sturdy ladders, right? But today, they're more like dynamic jungle gyms. Technologies evolve literally overnight. Real-time feedback constantly shifts the market. Even your most meticulously planned strategies can be upended in a single second. In this kind of environment, your ability to adapt is the absolute difference between stalling out and moving forward.
That brings us to part 2, fixed versus growth mindset. We're looking at the internal psychology of leadership. Now, what's really interesting about this is just how stark the contrast is. Consider the fixed mindset. This assumes abilities are set in stone. If you lead from this place, your primary focus is constantly proving your worth. You're trying to avoid failure just to protect your reputation. It's defensive, and honestly, it's totally fear-based. But conversely, we have the growth mindset. This frames talent and intelligence as learnable. It's agile. The focus here is on continuous improvement, where you actually embrace challenges and view mistakes as prompts to learn and iterate. In fact, research tracking brain activity shows that growth-minded people literally display greater neural activity related to learning when they make errors. Their brains actually light up differently.
Let's look a little closer at what happens when a leader gets caught in the fixed mindset trap. They avoid new challenges because, well, they don't want to expose any skill gaps. They view feedback as personal criticism. They even equate effort with inadequacy, thinking, if I were really talented, this would just be easy. As leaders, they often default to micromanagement and quickly dismiss any ideas that challenge established norms. The research shows this is incredibly detrimental to an organization. It totally erodes team morale and severely diminishes psychological safety, which ultimately suffocates creativity and slows down the whole company's momentum.
On the flip side, look at the growth mindset advantage. These leaders actively embrace new challenges. They see effort as the essential, unavoidable path to mastery. They invite constructive criticism and actually use it as actionable insight. They persist and they stay relentlessly curious. Leaders with a growth mindset treat every single situation as a classroom. They model adaptability for their entire team, treating setbacks simply as data points for making better decisions, rather than internalizing them as personal failures. All right, moving to part 3, the psychologically resilient leader. We're going to talk about mastering CIRES for transformation.
The academic foundation for this actually comes from research in the International Interdisciplinary Business Economics Advancement Journal. It introduces Richardson's meta-theory of resilience. This theory basically posits that when adversity or a major disruptive event hits, it's going to result in one of a few outcomes, depending entirely on the leader's resilience. It could cause a major life digression, or if the leader is highly resilient, it can actually result in positive life transformation. So let's clearly define it. CIRES, or psychological resilience, is the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, resulting in life transformation and growth. The massive takeaway here is that resiliency is so much more than just bouncing back to exactly where you were before the crisis hit. It is a catalyst for profound personal and professional growth. You don't just survive the stress, you are completely transformed by it. So, the crucial point is, how do we actually build this? Well, the research identifies 3 major pillars of CIRES. First up is emotional intelligence. This is your ability to integrate cognition and emotion, basically recognizing and regulating emotions in yourself and in others. Second is authenticity. This means operating from your true core self, rather than wasting precious energy trying to be someone you're not. And third is meaning in life, having a transcendent sense of purpose, a calling that goes way beyond your day-to-day tasks.
Let's walk through how you actually develop these traits in the real world. Step 1. Build emotional competence. This allows you to manage stress by keeping yourself in a positive emotional loop rather than spiraling out of control. Step 2. Lead authentically. By finally aligning your beliefs with your behaviors, you stop wasting energy playing a part. This is huge for preventing executive burnout. Step 3. Cultivate meaning. When you connect your daily efforts to a higher calling, studies show you gain an incredible internal locus of control and serious resistance to stress. Building these sequentially allows a leader to deepen their inner strength for when disruption inevitably hits.
Which brings us to part 4, the playbook for change. How we translate all this internal resilience into real organizational impact.
Okay, so we've built the internal psychology. We've got the growth mindset and the psychological resilience locked down. But how does the leader apply these traits externally to actually manage change? Here is the playbook for leading through disruption, drawn directly from experts in organizational leadership. First, you have to establish a clear vision and communicate it constantly. Articulate the why behind the change. Second, practice inclusive leadership. By seeking input from your team, you foster ownership and significantly reduce resistance. Third, empower and support your teams with the actual resources they need to adapt, and make sure you celebrate the small wins. Finally, demonstrate agility. Be ready to pivot your strategies on a dime when things don't go as planned. It's on you as the leader to set a tone that inspires the whole team to embrace the unknown.
And you know, when you execute that playbook, something pretty amazing happens to the corporate culture. Organizations cultivating a growth mindset enjoy much higher learning agility. Because the leader models this adaptable behavior, the employees suddenly feel safe to experiment. They readily reskill, they share knowledge, and they embrace change. The internal growth mindset of the leader spreads like wildfire, directly fueling continuous improvement across the entire organization.
And this brilliantly illustrates how this plays out at the highest global levels. Chris Nassetta, the president and CEO of Hilton, reflects on shifting market dynamics with a great thought. He says reinvention must be continuous. It's not a one-time effort. You don't just change once and then settle back down. The disruption is constant, so your growth and reinvention have to be constant too.
It is vital to realize that navigating this change effectively isn't just about survival. It's not just about treading water and keeping your head up. It's actually about optimizing your operations to seize entirely new, emerging opportunities. Rapid innovation and efficiency create the capacity for brand new structural growth.
Let's look to another top executive for proof of this. David Solomon, the chair and CEO of Goldman Sachs, noted that while faster innovation causes short-term disruption, it creates massive new possibilities. He says, if you create real efficiency, you have more capacity to invest in growth and other opportunities. Embracing disruption literally generates powerful new business momentum.
We know for a fact that the market will shift, technologies will change, and crises are going to arise. That is absolutely guaranteed. So, thinking back to the meta-theory of resilience we looked at today, when disruption hits, will you digress or will you transform? The choice is entirely up to your mindset. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning out there.